This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by the savage Sam Eggington over Zoom. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm all right, pal, yeah, I'm all right.
Good to hear, mate. It's good to hear. Obviously, it's been what, just over a month now since obviously you were in Ted War. I know you've kind of gone away and just been with your family, mate. Kept yourself away from it all. Get straight into that. Reflecting on the fight, what are your thoughts on it now?
I think it was. I thought I won the fight. I'm quite certain I won the fight. What can you do? I mean, Eddie. As soon as I got out of the ring, Eddie and said we can do the rematch. I've heard nothing. So, I presume they don't want the rematch. I don't know, but I think I more than deserve a rematch. I think if you watch the fight in silent, without the commentators, because the commentators are heavily biased. I mean, they always are to me for some reason, but they were heavily biased. I couldn't do a thing right, if I'm honest. So, if you watch it in silent, on mute, I think you'll spoil the fight completely different. And you got to think, whilst you're watching it on the TV, in the surroundings we was at, everyone could hear the commentators. So when the commentators are hyping up everything that the opposition's doing, you wouldn't be human as a judge if you weren't, if that didn't play on your mind. Do you know what I mean? So I think I more than deserve a rematch in a different scenario. I think, I've done enough last time to win. So we'll have to wait and see, but, it is what it is at the moment.
We'll go on to a number of things you mentioned, with the commentary and the scoring and what have you. Just to stick with the fight though, Sam, when you was in the ring, obviously, it seemed to be that Ted had the better. The first half, you was much stronger in the second. Was there anything different with regards to that? Did you see it any different at all?
I mean, he had a better first half, but he didn't win the whole first half. I thought I won the first round. I mean, I was winning the second round, and he caught me with a good shot. But I didn't go down, so it was a good shot. That's one shot. So, it was a wobble. So, if you want to give him a second round, maybe the third. But I definitely won 2 of the first 6, without a doubt. Obviously, I ain't watched it for a while, so I can't tell you which one. But I won 2 of the first 6. And I could say I won 4 or 5 of the last 6. So, I don't know. Look, it is what it is. But it's hard to go over, honestly. I'm not a bad loser. I watch all the fights back, and if I lost, I lost, and I'm okay with that. But I genuinely feel I was hard done by with this fight, and and that's why it's so hard to watch back, if I'm honest.
On the back of a defeat, I've spoke to John Pegg a couple of times since, and John said that whenever there's a close decision, it never seems to go your way, and it's something which has really kind of got you down, and it's really kind of frustrated you and made you question as to what more you can do in the sport to better your career. Do you think?
Do you know what it is? You know what it is? It's like if I go out and I have a war, whether I win or lose, if I go out, have a war, come out, bust eyes, blah blah, I get slagged. People say, all he does is go out, he has a war, he don't move his head, he gets hit too much, blah blah. I go out and try and do a bit of different. If I'm not having a full on swing, like a full on haymaker fight, I don't win. It's like if I'm not overawing someone, the judges just automatically think Sam's not doing what he's meant to be doing or what he normally does. It's not his round. So I don't know. It sounds like I'm bitching, but it's just irritating. It's irritating more than anything.
What has this past month or so been like for you? I know you said you don't really like to go over the fight, but when you do reflect on it, how has it kind of been mentally for you to kind of continue to motivate yourself to want to get back in?
It's hard, pal. I mean, like the first thing I've done was yesterday. I only started training yesterday, and that's only in the garage doing my own bits. It's hard because, like I say, I hate losing, but I'm not a bad loser. Like, if I lose, I get up and I say, "Here's what it is." Like, I'll push on to the next one. But when you feel like you've been hard done by, or it's just it's harder to get back into it because you think, you know, it's starting to get a bit harder now, you know, to get off your arse and start getting back into the gym. When I'm doing an 8-week camp, you know, I just had a baby in February. I've still done a full camp. You know, I was out of the house a lot, blah blah. Just to get nothing off anyone. You know, no credit off anything. And nothing I've done in that fight I got any credit for, except for finishing the fight. You know, oh, it was a great fight. That was it. That's all I got. The commentators were horrendous. You know, the judging was dreadful. But you know, what can you do?
Let's come on to both of those now, Sam. Obviously, let's touch on the commentary first, because we've seen over social media quite a few people have been vocal about the commentary from the Sky team. Going back to your fight, not just on your fight, but on other fights as well, but going to your fight, when you was actually in the ring, how clear was it for you to hear what they were saying?
Yeah, everything they're saying. You know, when I got in the ring, I got in the ring and I heard the commentator say, I think it was Matthew Macklin, he said, you know, it's okay for Sam to lose this fight. You know, we saw him come back. You know, if Ted loses this, you know, it might be a different story. And I'm thinking, you can't just say that shit out loud. Like, bear in mind, the judges are hearing everything. You wouldn't be human if you weren't direct, like, if you mentally you weren't put in the one direction by what you're just hearing for the last half an hour, just constantly in your head. I could hear everything they were saying. And I'm thinking, you know, it's hard for Ted to come back from a fight. You know, we saw Sam come back. That's automatically put in people's head, oh, it's okay if Sam loses this fight. Do you know what I mean? One of the judges spoke to John and said, it was really, really close. Bear in mind, on the night, it give it Ted by about 4 rounds. So that just shows you, that he was going with what he was hearing. You know, it's a human nature. If I'm whispering in your ear for half an hour non-stop, you're automatically going to think that's what's happening. And if the commentating weren't a big problem, then the second, third, and fourth week they wouldn't have put me in a booth. So if that don't prove a fact that it was a problem and you know they had to change it, you know, it is what it is. They put him in a booth. No one could hear him after the first week. Do you know what I mean? So, and every close fight since then was a draw. My fight, I'd lost by 4 or 5 rounds. It was crazy.
That's something I was going to...
In the last round, John probably said this day. In the last round, to win the fight, I had to knock him down 3 times. And if anyone saw the fight that way, then they're in the wrong sport. It's just that simple. It weren't that close.
Well, so the screens that were put up after your fights and for the commentators was something I was going to come on to next. Does that frustrate you more so that you could see something was being done for that fight? And if that was there for your fight, do you feel like obviously it would have been a very different outcome?
Yeah, mate, 100% it would have been a very different outcome. You know, like I say, you're not human if you're not negated by what you're constantly hearing. And not only not what you're hearing, but what you're hearing by influential people. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and then they put me in the booth the second week. It was like the first week with guinea pigs. Like we they was just testing it out, how it goes, and then second, third, fourth week they kind of fixed it up. But I don't know what to say. It's nothing you can do. You know, if the rematch was there, I'd take it. I was told the rematch. Sam will do the rematch. Definitely do the rematch. I said, give me a phone call. No one's rang me since. So.
Before we come on to the rematch, Sam, how did you actually score the fight yourself then?
Do you know what? Like I said, I've only watched it once. It's hard to, but I think the way I've said, I would definitely won 2 of the first 5 or 6 without a doubt, and I definitely won 4 or 5 of the last 6. I don't know how anyone would have me losing a fight by 3 or 4 rounds. But like I say, if I'm not doing what I'm normally doing, if I'm not having a gunfight in there, then people just think Sam's not, at the ballpark today. He's not having a war, so he can't be winning. It's just, I suppose that's my fault for the way I box. But if I'm winning the fight, no matter how I'm winning the fight, I should be credited for that.
Coming on to the rematch, Sam, obviously you mentioned back then everybody was talking about it. He said that, Eddie said he will try and sort something, and as of yet, you haven't heard anything. Where do you think things stand with that? Do you think you will have the rematch with Ted, or do you think they'll go down another route?
I don't see it. Like, I don't see them. You know, if they don't have to have the rematch, there's not a chance there's going to be a rematch. Just that simple. But again, you know, what am I meant to do? Do you know what I mean? I'm not in any position to, you know, tell people what to do or how to do it. You know, if they want to go a different route, then that's up to them. Like I say, it's nothing against Ted. It's just the fact that I thought I was hard done by on the night. Ted just done his job. It was that simple. But I do feel like I deserve a rematch. Will there be one? Probably not. But if he's given a choice, then definitely not. But again, you know, it's up to him. It's his career. He's got to do what he feels best.
If the rematch isn't there, Sam, who do you believe you could step in with? We saw Anthony Fowler and Kieran Conway both on following fight camp shows. Is it people like that who are also in that mixer between yourself, Ted, you know, Fowler, Fitzgerald, what have you?
Yeah, I mean, there's all these domestic fights. I've been offered, you know, fights on, you know, different networks. You know, since the fight, I've been offered fights on different networks, different promoters. I've been offered a few European fights, you know, international things. So I've got options everywhere. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here, you know, waiting for the rematch because that's my only, you know, that's my only chance. But I've got loads of options. But the rematch is something that, you know, I'm set on at the moment. You know, and they could offer me whenever they wanted to offer it me, and I'd take it. You know what I mean? I'd shift the weight and I'd get as fit as possible just for that date. You know, it could be next weekend, but we'll have to wait and see. I've got loads of options. You know, like you say, that the domestic fights are there. So just have to wait and see.
Is this going to be the toughest kind of defeat for you to come back from, and from a take? And if so, how do you feel you will motivate yourself to do so?
I mean, a defeat's a defeat. I mean, no matter how you put it, I mean, I've come back from worse defeats. You know what I mean? Like in Birmingham was a dreadful defeat. I mean, Liam Smith, you know, he stopped me in 5. You know, I got stopped in 2 in Birmingham. It's not the defeat that's bothering me as such. If Ted beat me, but it was just like, if it was done fairly, like he didn't beat me by 4 or 5 rounds. If he'd have beat me by a round, I probably wouldn't be moaning as much. But the fact is, I feel like I won the fight, and they give it to him by 5 or whatever it was. You know, I think that's what's irritating me the most. Like the commentators in a booth, you know, so on and so forth. All that shit's irritating me. I think that's what's nagging me the most. You know, that's the woodpecker in my brain, just nagging, saying, you know, just tapping away, and I'm thinking, you know, if that weren't like that, or if that had been changed the first week, or you know, things like that, that's what's irritating me. The defeat's a defeat. I can come back from a defeat. You know, like losing don't define, you know, me and my career. It is what it is. I've lost since the start, you know, and I've come back better. I can do that again without a doubt. But it's just the irritating little facts of it. That's all. I think it's more than anything.
Moving on from kind of everything Ted Cheeseman, Sam, have you caught or have you watched any of the other fight camp shows since, or have you kind of stayed away from boxing?
And I watched them all. I didn't catch the Dylan White one, honestly, mainly because I weren't paying for that. Not because it was a crap show. I just don't pay for boxing, honestly. But no, I watched the others. I watched the second one was Tasha, weren't it?
Yeah, Tasha and Terry. What did you make of that?
I thought it was I thought it was harsh, but like I say, you know, it was a close fight, so they had to swing the draw. I think Tasha. I think at the time, I think I had Tasha by 1, maybe 2. I think it might have been 2. But again, you know, it was harsh. I thought it was harsh. Honestly, I think I definitely had Tasha. But I think it was 1 or 2. But I definitely had a winning. But you know, like I say, what can you do? She got out, and I think she did a good job. I mean, I was up there most of the camp training, you know, watching the spar and so on and so forth. So I knew she was up and ready for it. But I think she put a great display on. But so did Terry. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against her. I think she's great. Like I watch her when she's on, but I thought she was lucky that night. I thought Tasha won by 1 or 2.
What did you make of Fowler Harper?
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, I know Harper. I mean, I've boxed him as an amateur. He beat me as an amateur. I know he's tough, he's game, he's fit as a fiddle. And he probably would have done a better job, having the 2 years out or however long. But I don't think it was ever going to be a win. I think Fowler was always going to come past that with flying colours. But I think Harper might have done a bit better, given a few more warm up fights. But I think it was a given. I think Fowler's big, he's strong, and he sits on his punches well. He's well schooled, so it was always going to be a hard night. But yeah, I was always giving it to Fowler.
On to the third week of shows, and we saw Cashwell born again, a stoppage victory for Felix Cash. What do you think of that one, Sam?
I thought, yeah, he done a job, didn't he? I mean, he done a good job. Jason Wilder was game and he come for it, but he was just too fit and too well prepared. Do you know what I mean? Just everything he'd done, everything he's through, pretty much land. But Wilder come, he give it his all. It just didn't work out.
Then again, into your division on that card, we saw ConwayMansory. What do you make of Kieran's victory?
I thought it was a good fight. It was at the time, it weren't a fight that I was like madly interested in, but watching it, like I couldn't take my eyes off it. It was a good fight. Like Conway, he was a bit slicker. I think you could see when Navi had a bad round through the middle. I think it was 5 or 6, and you could see he just didn't really recover from it. After that round, he didn't really throw as much punches, and he's good on his feet, but he didn't really throw as much punches, and he kind of just welted from there. Kind of went down, and it took Conway a few rounds to get over his big round because he went all out. But yeah, it was comfortable enough. I think the first 4 rounds were quite to and fro, but past that, yeah, I think Conway he took over and just done a good job.
Now, I know you said that you don't you don't pay for boxing, rather, and you didn't see the Whyte-Povetkin show, but I'm sure you've probably seen a little clip of the knockout itself and the victory for Alexander. What did you make of that?
I don't think you can make of anything of heavyweight boxing. It does only take one shot. Like, any 18, 19 stone bloke, hitting you, and it could be a knockout. I felt bad for Dylan. He had the fight in the not in the bag. Obviously, it was only early, but he had 2 knockdowns. He was boxing well, but it just only takes one shot. For Dylan's got a rematch, if I'm right. I mean, if he comes back and beat Povetkin off that knockout, he deserves a lot of credit, because that was a bad knockout, and to get back in the ring with someone who's done that, takes a lot of balls, and yeah, he deserves a lot of credit.
Obviously, just move away from those cards and just get a word on your campmate, Shaqs. He picked up that British title this past weekend against Chad Sugden. I'm sure that's a fight which you watched, Sam. What did you make of Shaq's performance and obviously seeing him pick up that title?
Yeah, listen, he like the coaches, John Suggy, they'll tell you, they expected a hard night's work. Like Chad Sugden's no mug. I know he's been up training with, doing all this sparring with Jose Burton. He's no joke. He's no mug. He's had all the time in the world to prepare. He's a good kid. And it looked like Shaq had turned up to help someone, train. He kind of just done everything right. Won pretty much every round. And breezed it, really, for a British title fight. I think anyone and everyone would expect a much harder fight, but credit to Shaq, he just made. And I don't think it's how bad Chad Sugden was boxing. You know, Chad Sugden put a lot into camp and a lot into the fight. It's just how easy Shaq negated and done his game plan, and it just made it look easy. And he come away with a British title in one of the most one-sided points wins I've seen in a while.
Where would you rank Shaq in the current kind of British standing, Sam? You know, people always seem to have Buatsi and Yard as number 1 and number 2, whichever order they like, and then below that, people would kind of put the Pitters, the Burtons, and what have you. How far off do you think Shaq is from being number 1 or 2, or mixing with the Buatsi and Yards in people's minds?
It's hard to say. I mean, because none of the British guys are boxing each other really. I mean, Sparman seems to get hold of everyone somehow. I mean, who did he box last? Lyndon, Arthur, and now he's got Yard, I think. So he's already boxed Shaq. I think it's hard to say. I mean, Callum Johnson's like heavy as well, isn't he?
Yeah, Callum Johnson as well. Yeah.
I mean, if you got to put him at the top, I think. You know, with what he's done. I think you put Callum at the top. I think Buatsi and Yard will fight for second place. And then it's hard to go from there, really. I mean, Shakan's definitely... I don't know the light heavyweights that well, but the ones I'm thinking of, yeah, Shaq's definitely top 5, top 6. Because it is a good division, like Jose Burton. There's a few in that MTK thing, isn't there? So it's hard to say, but I'd definitely give him top 5, top 6. And that's mainly because Callum Johnson's probably past British level. Yard's already been past British level. He done well. He didn't win, but nor did Callum Johnson, I suppose. But I think if you put the top 3 of Johnson, Buatsi, Yard, and then the next 3, you've got to put Shaq in that next 3 without a doubt.
Sam, we will leave that there now, and we'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. But before I let you go, a final message to everybody who's obviously a fan of yours and tuned in, and maybe a final message to Eddie Hearn about that potential rematch with Ted.
Listen, I appreciate everyone. I appreciate all the fans, all the well wishes. You know, tickets being bought, probably not for the last one, but ticket buyers. You know, I appreciate everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed the fight. And Eddie's got my number. Give me a shouted. You know what I'm saying? That I'm here waiting. But yeah, everything's good.
Sam, I appreciate your time. Obviously, it's good to know that you're back in the gym now, and hopefully you get some news soon. Thank you for your time as always, and thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Appreciate it, mate. Cheers.